Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blab number 3 from the Beauty Council. And today I'm super excited to introduce our guest, Alec Watson. Alec is a former gold and platinum recording engineer. I guess he's gone from audio to pictures. And he left music to pursue his first love of photography and filming in 2004. And he's never been happier. And he's filmed for and photographed campaigns for Goldwell, KMS, Sebastian, Sexy Hair, Britney Spears, Coca-Cola. And his favorite projects still include album art and directing and filming music videos. So Alec, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for coming here, and tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you're involved in the beauty industry.
Well, thanks, and thanks for the kind introduction. I ended up in the beauty industry kind of randomly. When I started, I did have hair for like a whole year, and I've since become extra sensitive to hair. It's kind of like, you know, if I was a musician and I was blind and played piano and sang, everybody would expect me to sing really well because my oral sensitivity would be heightened with the lack of seeing. And so I think there's some kind of sensitivity I have towards like amazing hair that's turned me into the hair photographer.
We can get you a wig and fix you right up.
But then it would require more work for me.
Yeah.
I kind of ended up randomly in the beauty industry. I worked with Edwin Johnston, and Edwin is with KMS California as kind of their like an international artist. And we were living in the same hometown at the time. I was a record producer and dabbling in photography. And he was this hair artist that lived in this little town of Nanaimo on Vancouver Island and would travel all over the world to do hair. And we just worked on a project one day and had so much fun. And he introduced me to someone at KMS. I went down and I tried filming something for them. This is when DSLRs very first came out. And they were just like, wow, I can't believe the quality you can film at with a camera. And that was kind of how it all took off. And so then KMS introduced me to Goldwell, and then the traveling started, and it turned, randomly turned into quite a career shooting hair. And so now when I get projects, a lot of the times I will get them because I'm kind of the beauty photographer. So being director of photography for the Britney Spears campaigns, like totally came out of shooting for KMS and Goldwell.
Wow. See, well, being in the beauty industry leads to great things. That's for sure.
Absolutely it does. Yes. And there's a lot of trust and the pressure that goes along with it. It's just like, oh, well, at least I know I'm going to look good. Alec's taking care of it. And it's like, truth be known, I don't do that at all. I just work with amazing talent, and the talent, creates this wonderful vision in front of me, and then I just try not to mess it up. And I think I took that from the recording world. There was a time when I wanted to make things sound like Bonnie Raitt went way back in the day when she was winning the Grammys, and I wanted to make something sound like a Bonnie Raitt song. I could never do it. And then one day I ended up working with her and her band, and I was sweating in the control room going, how am I going to make that Bonnie Raitt sound? I've never been able to create those sounds before. And all I had was the microphones up. I sat in the control room and it was just like, it sounds like a Bonnie Raitt record. And for the first time I understood, oh, you need the right people to do that thing. It's those people. If I just don't get in the way of amazing, I will be part of making amazing. And I've been able to take it into photography.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, it's very true. Get out of the way of the talent, as I always say.
Yeah.
And really, I take a few pictures too, and I just say, all I did was point and shoot. You guys did everything else, right?
That's what it feels like. And maybe as a photographer, there's something to be said for doing that, recognizing that and not getting in the way.
Right. So let's talk about some strategies for salons to excel and do some wonderful things on Instagram. We have seen an explosion in Instagram, and there are rock star stylists made these days based in part on their efforts at Instagram and the pictures they produce, the following they have, and the sharing that it enables that really has built their business. In so many ways, it's replaced so many types of advertising and promotion. So it's a really important thing for your average everyday hairstylist and hair salon to really figure out and nail down. The challenge is, of course, that it's difficult to know what goes into a great photo. A lot of us were given these phones. They included a camera. We kind of hold it up, point, and shoot. But there are always those elements in every photograph that make it better, that make it excel, catch the eye, capture the imagination, and shock and surprise, not shock, but surprise and delight the viewer, so much so that they like it, favorite it, share it, keep it, and eventually call the stylist in question, book an appointment, and create some business. So let's talk about, you've got 5 winning ways to create a winning Instagram image. So let's hear your expertise. Give us point number 1.
Number 1, this is an odd one that I came across, and I am no social media expert as far as like the experts that I work with. I take the photos and we see what the numbers are, so we can do it from a completely statistics point of view to know whether there's been success or not success. And one of the things that I came across, and it sounds silly, but is getting a light into the picture. And I think this works on a few different ways. One is that if I have a light in my frame, it could be a behind the scenes picture. It looks like less of an advertisement. There's an immediacy to it, and I think it allows the viewer to be there. So oftentimes, even if we're shooting an ad, I'll bring the lights into the frame. And I think you could use this in the salon by, say, if you've got a client, you're shooting into a mirror rather than just completely focusing on them. If you've got, I'm looking over my shoulder for lights. I've got lights in the background up here and here. If I had those lights on and they're in my frame, for some reason, that picture will get more likes, especially if the light's bright and flaring a little bit. It gets more likes than just my face here. Maybe it wouldn't, I wouldn't get that many likes with this face, but the light somehow helps it. I don't know why. And for sure that makes a difference.
Do you think it adds some sort of a sparkly quality to the image, or kind of gives it a bit of dimension, or perhaps some kind of I don't know, I want to call it rock starish kind of quality?
Yeah, it might be literally sparkle. Maybe we're looking at tiny little pictures, and I think the rules are different for little pictures. Like, actually, I know the rules are different for little pictures than for big pictures. And I've had all sorts of big pictures over the years, and I first came across this when I would try to reduce my favorite photos to a business card. I've always had my own photos on my business cards, and you take your favorite photo and you make it that small, and suddenly it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And like a shout out to Moo Cards, which I also think are very cool. All sorts of photos, and suddenly I start to find which photos are working. And that's the same way with Instagram. Like, it's a really great immediacy way to go, that's working, that's not working. What is it about that? Sparkles work.
Neat. Okay, good. So that's easy. So sparkles, get a light in the background, have a reflection of some kind, shoot into a mirror. Can you shoot, it's never quite flattering. Can you shoot kind of low and up of your subject, or are you going to get kind of those nasty chins? And
okay, so, well, that's one. I get in trouble for this all the time. I tend to shoot low. Mm-hmm. Okay. One thing that I will often do if I'm doing headshots of people, and I need to make them happy. That's my job when I'm shooting a headshot. I will, and this could also work for a salon, I will hand them their phone and get them to take a selfie for me to see what they think their side is. And they have their own view of how they're supposed to look, and they will tell you immediately how they want to look. And some people don't know, and then you're fine. You can shoot them however you want. Other people are very, very particular about a way that they look. I'll keep it nameless. There's a brand in LA that I shoot for often, and there's somebody that works there that I had to shoot a headshot for. And as I handed her the phone for the selfie, it was like this, and it was totally sideways. And I was just like, you think you look good? Like, you're beautiful.
Profile, yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to argue, because if I shoot you straight on, you are not going to be happy.
Yeah.
So you can get a lot of information from your client in the way they hold the phone and look at themselves, and that's how they think they look best.
Cool. That's an amazing bonus tip. I love that.
There we go. Often the biggest difference I find on women is, and I've always got to memorize this, and I've got different people memorized, is, do they look through their bangs or do they look from the part side? And they're always, the people who are particular are very particular about this, and I just have to memorize it. Like well, of course, that's your best side.
Sure, of course it is. Yeah,
and they're beautiful from both sides, but they have an idea of which one works and which one is terribly awful.
I guess it pays to know your subject well. I mean, and certainly that's what stylists are going to be doing. So, okay, so let's move on to the second point. I think you mentioned color. Could you expand on that?
Yes, color. So here's an odd one that goes along with sparkles. Orange, warm. If I can get a photo that's got orange in it, at least 20% more likes. And when you're up at like 1,000, 2,000 likes, that's 20% is a big number. And the same picture, I can process it two different ways. I can process it blue, or I can process it orange. Orange is always liked way more than blue, and so you can shift that just in your color temperature. And people like the warmer photos better than the cool ones. And I personally like my photos to be processed cool, and I'll look at them and I like blue. And when we look at a lot of film, certainly our action and our superhero movies are very, very blue, very cold. People don't like that on Instagram. They like warm and orange.
So some of the filters might be, I suppose, Sunset and Hudson. Those are some of the... Absolutely. Take you into the orange, or go into the filters yourself and just slide over to warmer. Right.
And give yourself a warmer version of the same shot. And it's totally testable, and I've never seen it not work.
Okay, cool.
When I've
Interesting. And does that apply for shots of men too? Like, you'd think men would look better in a colder, cooler color, but... like I was saying, I'm with you. I think that when it comes to likes, the orange photos have won hands down. Like 100% of the time, the orange photo has won. Super simple, easy strategy to increase. Yes. I mean, it can maximize. Yeah. Of course, now there's gonna be all these. Maybe it's as simple as nobody has orange photos, and so they're jumping out because everybody's photos are blue. I don't know, and maybe that'll change over time. Or maybe there's kind of like what is it, the spray tans? Right. There's a spray tan look that makes people orange, and we're liking that in media. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Orange wins. Interesting. Well, it's easy enough. Okay, next point. You were mentioning post-production, something about what you should do. Can you explain that a little bit in terms of how we can apply that? In post-production, something that I found, and this was when we were talking about big pictures and little pictures, as pictures get smaller, we want to turn the contrast up to get the same kind of impact from a photo. So something that looks good on your screen, I'll step out of Instagram for a second. For a comparison, if I was shooting something and I shot it and I'm looking at it on a big screen, I can do my big screen thing. Here it is. Fill in the whole screen. Nice. And I've shot it, I'm looking at it in Lightroom, and I set the contrast and I like it. If I send that to my phone to put on Instagram, it will not have enough contrast to be able to stand up as a smaller picture. Mm-hmm. So when pictures are huge, and the viewing distance is greater, we can have a lot lower contrast. As they get really small, to get the impact, got to crank that contrast up. And so again, that would be a choice of filter, or going into the settings and just taking the contrast slider and giving it a shove to the right. And this is something I take from my audio training that my audio engineers taught me, like a way back when dinosaurs first started playing instruments. That rather than pushing a slider and seeing the change that you want, push the slider all the way and come backwards. And then bring it back, And bring it back, because we have a tendency to see change. And so we'll respond to the change.
And so you'll find that if you were to do it and test it, you would like the change better if you went all the way where it's too much and pull it back till you like it. Whereas if there's no change on it and you slide it up, you'll choose a different point. And the preference point is usually the one where it was way too far of an effect and you pulled it back.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me of stamps. If you think of stamps, they're quite small, and any picture you see on the stamp is always super high contrast. It's
two tones. Yeah,
max, and
on
lots
and
of
off.
detailed things outlined in black, and you know, it really pops off that little stamp.
Yeah, how do you make it pop? You turn the contrast way up.
Okay, all right, good stuff. Number 4, filling the frame. You were talking about
filling the. So you know what? Bringing up stamps is a great example. You have to put little. If you've got pictures that have got too much detail in them, they'll work big, but when they get small, you can't have that much information. And I think that's why something like a selfie works so easily, because there's only one subject in there, and you fill the frame with that one person. You want to do the same with your Instagram. I was at shooting a fashion show in New York last week, and we were backstage, and the makeup artists were shooting the models against this amazing door. And I just happened to have a light back there. And I said, "Oh, here you guys, let me hand you my light." And so they were all thrilled because now they could get good makeup pictures. And I watched them shooting, and they were shooting just by holding their phone up and bringing it in really close to their subject and shooting. And so they filled their frame effectively with the person's face. But I've moved on to another one here, because we're talking about filling the frame, filling the frame effectively. And they filled the frame on a wide angle lens. I'm going to do it for you and scare you. So as I fill the frame with my face, I end up with this really wide angle look that's not all that pleasing. I suggested to them that they zoom in on the camera, and then step back and fill the frame, and you'll get a much better shot. So if you're shooting a client, my 2 things would be, you want to fill the frame with them. Yep. I will sometimes cut off the top of somebody's head if there's not much information going on my head clearly, but on a hair shot, I will do the same. If there's not a lot of story to be told up here, or let's say we're talking, maybe it's volume. You can get the perception of more volume in the shot by just slightly cutting the top, because, sorry, I'm a really bad example of this. Yeah. Pretend I got hair up here. There you go.
Looks good. Love it.
If I go like that, now we don't know how high my hair goes. My hair might go much further. I've filled the frame, and my imagination is now filling it bigger than if I keep it all in the shot. Right. So I step back, I zoom in with the camera, and I fill that frame, and maybe be choosy about what I'm going to cut, because sometimes you can cut things and make things look bigger and fill the frame more.
Interesting. One of the tricks I learned in journalism school was get your subjects in front of you, pull your camera out, and then when you're just about ready to shoot, take one step forward. And
I like that.
It was a trick that I've just always done. I've always sort of framed it and then come in close, and I still find I crop in close. So it's you know, even if you're doing photography for a living, the tendency to kind of, I don't know, maybe fill the frame with extraneous stuff because you want your own reference, but really you don't need to see
the story,
curtains. Yeah, right.
Yeah, what is the subject? Yeah. Get it on the subject. Yeah. And I actually get in trouble for that, for the opposite reason all the time, with because as a professional photographer for clients and the creative directors are there, the art director, they always want cropping room, and I always want to take it away. I want to say, this is what the shot is.
Sure.
So we have little fights that way, but I understand.
Right? Yeah. There are a few tools out there. Adobe Post, for example, which is a really cool new one. And if you're taking pictures for that, you do have to allow room to place the block of text. So like in this right here, I could put, you know, there's a block of text here or on the side. But really for Instagram, point, shoot, post, you know, up close is great tip.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Last one. I didn't write it down, so you'll have to tell me what it is. Your last great Instagram tip. So for winning
Sure.
images.
Now I'm gonna have to hit the Instagram button on my phone to get the right name for this one,
Right.
because I call it clarity. And
Yes. Yeah, and I've seen that before.
and
And
is it clarity in Instagram or
I couldn't
structure?
tell you, but I have seen many images on Instagram that lack clarity. And
Yes.
I can tell you, as again, it's like, gosh, it's just, and let me just do a little bit of blabbing myself here, but in hairstyling and hairdressing, a lot of times the beauty is in the details. It's in the shine. It's in the attention paid to the shape of the hair and the structure of it. And then a lot of images are kind of blurry by nature on Instagram, and a lot of that gets lost. Again, lack of clarity. So is that something that an Instagram, like a salon person, could actually go and adjust?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've pulled it up here. So there, and in Instagram, it's called structure.
Okay.
It's a thing in photography known as local contrast, and it's similar. It's similar to contrast, but it does it in a small area. And what it's actually doing, it's taking the difference between, what have I got? I've got black and white on the back of my phone, and right in this gap here, what it's doing is sharpening that area. And so for shine on hair, I mean, that's what we're seeing. We don't actually see the shine because, especially coming out of a monitor, it can't shine. You know, it can only get so white and it can only get so black, and neither is black or white. Right. And so we want to get a greater difference just in that area. So as you push your structure up, your shine lines will become greater, and so will your outlines. And the giveaway is a thing called a halo. And halos is kind of what you don't want to see. And what'll happen is when you push it too far, you would maybe perhaps see like a line around my head and my shoulder that literally looks kind of like a halo. That's when you know you've gone too far, and just pull it back a little bit. And again, this is quite testable because you can have a look at the two shots, but you'll find that if you push structure a long way, especially on a hair shot, you'll get much better looking hair, especially on that little picture.
Yeah, very cool. So it sort of reminds me of like details in clothing, where if you've got a pattern in a fabric, let's say, there's always a detail stitching. It's called detail stitching.
Yes.
And essentially it's a different piece, a different color stitching along the border of a piece of clothes. It really takes the lapel off of the rest of the structure, let's say, or separates a sleeve from, and you see that in clothing design, and so obviously that principle is applicable to.
I like that. I was unaware of this, but now that you mention it, that's exactly what it's like. I'm going to use that. Yeah,
it's and when next time you're picking out a shirt, look for that structure.
I wasn't aware that I picked that on all my shirts. I was not aware that that's what I was doing.
There you go. Yes, well, my cousin was a textile designer and taught me that one day. I don't know why, but she said, Greg, when you're picking out good clothes, look for this detail. I went, all right, I will. So there you have it.
That is good to know.
Yeah. Alec, it has been such a great pleasure to speak with you today. You have given us some wonderful tips, takeaways that are going to make for winning Instagram images. Tell us more about how people can get a hold of you and see your work and contact you if they need to.
Absolutely. So I have two websites. My personal one and personal brand is alecwatson.com. And so for that, I'm shooting for the beauty brands, but I'm also working towards a teaching program. I've been on the road for the better part, like completely, for 6 years now, where I just travel more than 300 days a year, taking photos. And as much as I love it, I am trying to create a home life and be a little choosier about when I travel. So something I've always wanted to do is teach. I managed to do a semester at university once to see if I liked it, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm going into my third career as an educator and teacher. So this is all part of what I'm doing, and I'm starting up a program called 2-Minute Mastery. And the idea being, when I go onto YouTube, was where I first noticed it. I want to learn something, And when I click on something on there, there's an 11-minute tutorial on something, and the first 3 minutes they're introducing themselves and telling me what they had for breakfast. And it's just like, I don't have the time. Give me the information. So that's my goal. You know, give me 2 minutes, I will give you a technique. So 2minutemastery.com, and that's where I am placing all the lessons. And as I travel, I'm still going to be traveling for at least the next 2 years. I'm going to try and do a video lesson in every city in every country that I travel to.
Well, that sounds really exciting. Can't wait to see how that and shapes up. And online learning is great. It's you know, it's what made lynda.com such a great success, and so many other similar things. So good, best of luck with that.
Thank you very much.
Alec, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much, and have a great day, and thanks for all the tips.
You're very welcome. I look forward to doing this again.
You bet. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.